Ever pondered whether you might be a sociopath? Today we're exploring this intriguing question through a fun yet enlightening quiz. We'll delve into various traits that might hint at sociopathy. So, are you ready? Let's dive into the unknown of your mind together. Before we start, what exactly is a sociopath? Now, that's a question brimming with intrigue. A sociopath, in the most basic terms, is someone diagnosed with antisocial personality disorder, a condition characterized by a consistent disregard for the rights of others, absence of empathy, and often a pattern of deceit and manipulation. However, it's crucial to address some common misconceptions here. Sociopathy isn't about being antisocial or shunning human interaction. It's about a lack of regard for societal norms and the feelings of others. Also, it's not an all-or-nothing label. Just like many psychological conditions, sociopathy exists on a spectrum. Some individuals might have more pronounced symptoms, while others might exhibit subtler traits. Now, you might be wondering, how is sociopathy different from psychopathy? That's a valid question. Both conditions share overlapping traits, but there are subtle differences. Psychopathy is generally considered more severe, with individuals often demonstrating more calculated, manipulative behavior and a higher potential for violence. However, it's important to remember that not all sociopaths or psychopaths are violent or criminal. Many lead regular lives, blending into society like chameleons. The key takeaway here is that sociopathy is a complex, nuanced condition. It's not as black and white as it's often portrayed in popular media. Understanding the definition will help you answer our questions more accurately. So, let's dive deeper and explore this fascinating subject together. Are you ready to take a peek into your psyche? It's time to delve into the first set of questions that focus on some emotional characteristics. Remember, there are no right or wrong answers here. It's all about honest introspection. First up, let's talk about empathy. Would you say that you often struggle to understand or share the feelings of others? Maybe you find it hard to put yourself in another person's shoes, or perhaps you simply don't feel the need to do so? If this rings a bell, you might want to note that down. Moving on, let's discuss relationships. How would you describe your relationships? Are they deep, meaningful, and lasting, or do they tend to be superficial and short-lived? Do you find it hard to form genuine emotional connections with people? If you're nodding along, go ahead and jot that down too. Lastly, for this part of the quiz, we'll touch on manipulative behavior. Have you ever found yourself manipulating others to get what you want? Are you good at convincing people to do things they might not otherwise do? If this sounds like something you've done, take a moment to note this down. Now, it's important to remember that these are just questions and they're not meant to diagnose or label anyone. They are merely tools for self-reflection and understanding. It's also vital to remember that everyone exhibits some of these traits at one time or another. What we're trying to understand here is patterns of behavior, not isolated incidents. So, have you jotted down your responses? Excellent. Keep them close by as we'll be referring back to them later on. And remember, this is just the start. We still have more ground to cover in our exploration. Keep track of your answers. They will be important later on. Now let's talk about what your answers might mean. If you found yourself nodding along to questions about lack of empathy, manipulative behavior, or arrogance, don't jump to conclusions just yet. These traits, while they can be associated with sociopathy, are not exclusive to it. We all exhibit some of these behaviors from time to time. It's part of being human. When we talk about sociopathy, we're referring to a consistent pattern of these behaviors, not just occasional instances. So if you're worried because you once told a white lie to get out of an awkward situation, or felt a momentary lack of empathy during a heated argument, don't be. That doesn't necessarily mean you're a sociopath. Furthermore, it's important to remember that sociopathy is not a label to throw around lightly. It's a serious personality disorder that requires a professional diagnosis. Self-diagnosis based on a few personality traits can be misleading and harmful. It's also essential to note that these traits exist on a spectrum. Some people might exhibit them more strongly or more frequently than others, but that doesn't automatically categorize them as sociopaths. In conclusion, while the traits we've discussed can be signs of sociopathy, they're not definitive proof. They're simply pieces of a larger puzzle that only a trained professional can accurately assemble. Remember, this is a spectrum. Let's continue to the next set of questions. Ready for more self-discovery? Excellent. Let's dive right back in. This time we're going to focus on behavioral traits, specifically impulsivity, irresponsibility, and disregard for rules. Question 1. Do you often make rash decisions without considering the consequences? Are you the type to leap before you look, acting on impulse rather than careful thought? Remember, this is about consistent behavior, not the occasional spontaneous decision. Moving on to question 2. Would you describe yourself as irresponsible? Do you frequently fail to fulfill work obligations or perhaps struggle to maintain stable employment? Do you often neglect financial responsibilities like paying bills on time? Now, question 3. Do you have a pattern of disregarding and violating the rights of others? This could be through persistent lying, using aliases, or conning others for personal profit or pleasure. Do you have a history of disrespecting lawful behaviors or societal norms? Question 4. Do you exhibit a lack of remorse? Are you indifferent to or rationalize having hurt, mistreated, or stolen from another person? Do you struggle to feel empathy or express genuine apologies? Our 5th question. Do you display a consistent irresponsibility? This could manifest as a repeated failure to sustain consistent work behavior or honor financial obligations. And finally, question 6. Do you have a disregard for the safety of yourself or others? This could be seen through reckless driving, substance misuse, or engaging in potentially dangerous activities without considering the potential harm. These questions are designed to gauge certain behavioral traits that could align with sociopathy. However, it's important to remember that only a licensed professional can diagnose any kind of personality disorder. This quiz is not a diagnostic tool, but rather a prompt for self-reflection and understanding. Again, jot down your answers. We're almost at the end. Now let's decode the second set of answers. If you found yourself relating to the scenarios in the second set of questions, it's essential to understand what this might indicate. These questions delve into the deeper aspects of sociopathy, such as a lack of empathy, manipulative behavior, and a disregard for the rights of others. For instance, if you found yourself prioritizing your own needs over others, even at their expense, this could be a sign of reduced empathy, a characteristic often associated with sociopathy. However, it's crucial to remember that occasional self-centeredness is a part of human nature and doesn't necessarily mean you're a sociopath. Similarly, if you identified with manipulative behavior, it's important to reflect on this. Manipulation, especially when used to exploit others, is another trait commonly linked with sociopathy. Yet, keep in mind that we all have moments when we're less than honest. If you recognized a disregard for the rights of others in your answers, this is a more serious sign. Sociopaths typically have little regard for societal norms and the rights of other people. However, everyone can have a moment of thoughtlessness, so don't rush to conclusions based on this alone. In discussing these answers, it's essential to reiterate that having some sociopathic traits does not mean you're a sociopath. Just as having a sweet tooth doesn't make you a dessert chef, having a few sociopathic traits doesn't necessarily mean you're a sociopath. It's the consistent, pervasive presence of these traits, especially when they harm others, that points towards sociopathy. And remember, this is a simplified discussion meant to pique curiosity, not a professional diagnosis. If these traits are causing distress or harming your relationships, it's important to seek professional help. Remember, self-awareness is the first step to understanding. If you're concerned about your results, consider seeking professional help. Don't be afraid to reach out. After all, we're all in this journey of understanding ourselves better, one step at a time. So, are you a sociopath? This question has guided our journey today. We've delved into the definition, explored the traits, and even tested our understanding with a quiz. Remember, this video is not a diagnostic tool. It's a way to spark curiosity and encourage self-reflection. If you're concerned about any traits you see in yourself, it's important to reach out to a mental health professional. They're equipped to provide the guidance and support you might need. Psychology is a fascinating field full of intricacies and nuances that we're just beginning to understand, so continue to explore, question, and learn. Until next time, keep exploring your mind.